Hello, hello, everyone. Great to see you here. I'm Cindy Drozda, and it's the day after Thanksgiving in the USA. So happy, whatever today is, it's Friday. It's a work day for a lot of us. And it's great to see all of you all here. Wow, I've got already people from all over the world. Hello, Paul, good friend from over across the pond, and Philip, also from over there. Sue is the first one to join the stream today. Welcome, welcome. And Wurzel, the wood butcher. I love that name. That's very good. Jim, good to see you. Alan and Bill. And if I don't get your name, it's because I'm just flailing along here as usual. John, good to have you here. SK, is that Saskatchewan? Yeah. Oh, and Duncan is also from Canada. Oh no, you're from England. Okay, I thought you were from Canada. Yeah. Uh, well, let's see. It's evening over there, right? So let's see what sort of possibly interesting things we might do today. And Paul is from Canada. Good to have you here. Okay, so yeah, I've got some things planned as I always do, and I'm going to start out with a little bit of, the usual preamble as I do. Um, Here I am. We got snow last night. So in Erie, Colorado, and we've got about 3 inches of snow and still falling. It's wintertime. Temps are not going to be above freezing for another 3 or 4 days. And me and Carter, well, we're spending a lot of time in front of the wood stove. That's what we like to do. I'm here for this. I call it wood turning tool talk. Today, I'm not going to really talk tools. I'm going to make something. I do this about once a month. The next one will be, I guess that's 2 weeks from today, December 8th. And you can subscribe to my list on my website, and you'll get the direct link to these sessions. You can also just show up at my YouTube channel or Facebook or Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, you name it, at the appropriate time. It's noon Mountain Time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. You in the UK are not, or you are on UTC right now, I believe. Anyway, yeah, so I'll be here in another 2 weeks. And my friend Todd Raines, who's also the moderator on a lot of my online things, he does a live stream like this every other week also on Friday. Did mine say Friday? I don't think it said Friday, but I'm doing Fridays now. I used to be on Thursday. We're going to do Friday, and his next one is on December 15th. He's every 2 weeks on intervening weeks to me. And let me see if I have a QR code. This one. There he is. There's how to find Todd and sign up on his list, and you can get notifications of all of his stuff. Wood Turning Tool Store, that's Todd's company, has a Black Friday sale. This is just for today, this one. You get a free 6-inch ruler and use that code there. So you got to copy this code down right quick because I don't think you can get there just from his website, but he has other specials on his website too. So why am I advertising somebody else's Black Friday sale? Because Todd's a good friend and because we all got to stick together. Another thing that Todd and I do together is we are doing, let's get rid of that. We do a collaboration on these sharing and Q&A sessions. The next one being Friday, December 1st. And that's a Zoom meeting where you can have active camera and microphone, show a picture of your work, ask a question, socialize. It's a fun time and it's free. And you can get there by also subscribing to my list. there, or Todd's list. We'll both be doing them. Okay, let's see if we have any comments here. Comments, anyone? Why are we not bringing up the comment page? There we go. Oh, yeah, people from all over the place here. This is wonderful. So great to see y'all here. And Chuck's asking about my bike ride. That was fantastic. I went out riding mountain bikes in Moab, around Moab, Utah I think we were on the trail for 4 days or something like that. And it was great. Much needed exercise. It's so easy to forget to exercise when you're working so hard, but that was great. So, hey, Peter, I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. And yeah, well, it's tough timing on a busy day on a holiday weekend. It's just that this was the Friday it happened, and so I figured I'll do it. And if there aren't very many people watching, well, you can watch it later. You know that? It'll be recorded on all of those stream destinations. East coast of UK. Good to see you here, Charlie. Yeah, and it's evening. I know it's weird because here it's noon, but for me that's like first thing in the morning. Uh, okay, so back to our stuff over here. Let me get that off of there. Um, I was talking about the sharing and Q&A session, and I got that QR code up for quite a while there. And we need to go back over here. Yeah, we're over here. Okay, good. My friend Lyle Jameson does online classes, uh, as do I, and as does Todd and Pat Carroll and several other people. And that is the greatest place to learn stuff. I'm going to be doing something today that I learned in Lyle's last session. And I just love it when I pick up some little tip about something. Lyle Jameson will be doing his nut bowl, which is a really great gift idea. Let me see here. Do we have a QR code? I'm loving these QR codes. So you can sign up on Lyle's website, lylejameson.com. I can't really post links in the chat easily here, so I'm just posting QR codes. So very good. And if that wasn't up long enough, you can find it in the recording later. I also do online classes, and my next one will be January 13th because Lyle's doing January 6th, and I'm not doing a December one because, lots of reasons. One is I got to get caught up on some stuff, and hold me to this one. I'm going to get my video rental system set up this month. It never happens when I'm just always working really hard. What will I do in this next IRD? Nobody knows, but I'm kind of leaning towards a tall, hollow vessel. Hollowing something tall and narrow like this is actually about the easiest hollowing you can do. And so it's hollowing and figure display of the wood that's a little different than my typical shapes. So that's what I'm leaning towards, but who knows? It's a month and a half away, and things could change. Meanwhile, you can still sign up for the taper triangle box on my website, and of course we have a QR code for that right here. This is my website. I still have the button active, and you get the recording, of course, for 6 months. This is a multi-axis box that's triangular in cross section and has some little feet and an ornament on the top, and a really fun project. Not a high stress turning project, but a cool little box. And so on to the real stuff. What am I going to do today? I'm going to do a pizza cutter. And the reason is because my friend Steve Worcester he's turningwood.com. Let me get that up here for you. I know I've got one right here. Um, he's doing a pizza cutter contest, and I just thought, oh, well, so that'll be fun. I may not enter the contest. I won't enter the contest for reasons you'll hear soon enough. But yeah, I love to just see what my friends are up to and see what he's doing and all that stuff. And here's uh, a useless link for turningwood.com. You can also find turningwood.com. That's easy enough to remember. And enter a picture of the pizza cutter you make with a 4-inch blade, and you could win. On every Wednesday, he draws, and then on the 6th, he draws the final one. And Steve, I'm relying on you if you're here to post details in the comments. So, yeah, let us know how easily we can get a hold of you. Okay, so my saga here is I'm thinking I'm going to do a pizza cutter. Oh, and this will be easy enough. I'll just order a pizza cutter kit and it'll be fine. I know how to make things with the inserts and all that already. But my pizza cutter did not show up. So now what am I going to do? Well, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like I have one, and I can get the dimensions and everything off the internet for the one that I ordered. And I'm going to talk about some other options too for pizza cutters. So what I'm going to do here today is show you how I would do it, but unfortunately, I'm not going to screw a pizza cutter head onto the finished project at the end because I don't have one. It's probably sitting at my P.O. box waiting for me right now. So anyway, thank you, UPS, for being late. So let's reorganize here. You got the QR code for turningwood.com, and you can't find it off of my website, but we'll put that QR code up. Oh, we'll put that QR code up right here for a little longer while I'm talking about what I'm doing with this pizza cutter. So, okay, so I ordered the Woodcraft pizza cutter mechanism, and it looks like this. It's the blade part has a male thread on it, and you put an insert into the wood. Okay, so I get to thinking about pizza cutters, and this is a little quiz here. What goes best with pizza? Anybody got ideas? I have an idea. Anyway, so I had an idea. What goes with pizza? Well, first thing that comes to my mind, beer. All right, so we're going to make a double-ended unit here, and I'm going to have a beer bottle opener on the other end. Now, I'm sure you can use these for opening other things besides beer, but why would you? Oh, well, okay, there are other things that go with pizza, like baked beans, but yeah, you win the prize, Paul. Beer is the right answer. So, yeah, we're going to does anybody have beers with caps you have to open? Well, I do, because the best beer that's not in a can these days is always in a non-screw top cap. So yeah, and it'll be fun anyhow. So this uses a insert for a 3/8/16 thread. This beer opener thingy. And so does the Niles pizza cutter. No, it's not the Niles pizza cutter. I'm getting ahead of myself here. The beer opener uses an insert for 3/8/16. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Okay, where are we here, folks? There we are. Fun with technology. This one here, and I thought I had, yeah, This one here, the Woodcraft one, whichever size Woodcraft one you get, uses a threaded insert. Different insert, because this is 5/16 18 insert thread. I am going to recommend that if you're making a pizza cutter, get your hardware ahead of time because they're all different. The Niles and Craft Supplies ones have the female thread in the cutter head, and so you got to mount a male thread in the handle, which I will talk about when I get there. They give you a little long piece of 3/8 threaded material and you glue that into your handle. It's glued in. The idea here is the pizza cutters with all that cheese and tomato sauce, they get a mess, and a lot of people want to throw them in a dishwasher, but you don't want your handle going through the dishwasher. So you can unscrew the handle, which means it's going to happen over and over again, which means you don't just want tapped threads in the handle unless you make the handle out of aluminum or stainless steel or something like that. Okay, so Alan's got a theory about beer here. The best beer comes in a can. Well, you're right about that these days, and cans are more environmentally conscious and sustainable now. So I drink a lot of canned beer, yes. A lot of the craft beers come in cans. Cold beer, that's the best kind of beer out there. The other thing, my neighbor always says the best beer out there is the beer somebody else bought. He calls it OP, other people's. So there you are. I buy him beer all the time. All right, so where were we? We weren't drinking beer. It's too early in the day for me. So I'm going to make a pizza cutter, and here's how I'm going to get started. I'm going to take a blank, and I've put it between centers. I guess we need to go out here. I've put it between centers and turned it round. And the idea here is first thing I'm going to do is drill a hole in the end for the insert. So this is a kind of a thing to think about. How are you going to hold this piece of wood to drill a hole? Now, I could drill it on the drill press. That works too. But what I want to do is drill it on the lathe. Okay. And so I got to hold it somehow. And I have chosen to turn a cylinder so that I can put it in my spigot jaws. And this is Axminster chuck with the O'Donnell jaws. A lot of people's chucks, the various different kinds of chucks, they've all got some kind of spigot jaws available. So you've probably got spigot jaws if you're big for doing lots of weird turnings and stuff. This is a Vic Mark, and those are the spigot jaws I have for this chuck. If, however, you don't want to have to buy a chuck and you've got your whatever the standard jaws, they're usually 50mm jaws, and they usually will grip. If it's a Vic Mark, it'll grip down to 1.25 inches. If it's most of the other ones, it'll grip down to 1 3/4. So that'd be something like a 32mm to I don't know, 45 or something like that. So what I'm going to do if I don't want to buy spigot jaws, I'm going to take my square piece of wood and make a tenon on the end to grip in the jaws. But okay, so why don't I just grip in the short jaws on a tenon like this? Just put the piece in the jaws. Well, the reason is because it's not going to hold very well. It's going to be really easy to get it knocked off axis from cutting and or drilling, and so it'll be more difficult to get the hole in the right place. Oh, and here's an opinion by Jerry, which I suppose I do agree with. Drilling on the lathe is more accurate. Yeah, it's easier to get it on the center line of the piece of wood. And actually, what I'm thinking of here is all this prep I'm doing, like turning a cylinder and getting a tenon and all, that's to ensure accuracy. Oh, I like this comment here. The best thing to have with pizza is friends. Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that idea. I just got a new trackpad and it is, oh, okay. It's picky about where I touch it. Okay. Picky electronics. Okay. So where was I? I was talking about if I just put the very end of this cylinder in the chuck, it's not going to ensure accuracy. But if I have a tenon on the end and a shoulder to the tenon, the shoulder is going to, and this really isn't the chuck for this job, but the shoulder is going to cause some, it is going to keep the piece from getting knocked off axis. Let's say we get down in here. So my shoulder now could even be the squares. And this will go in my Vic Mark chuck, this size tenon. But if you have one of those 50 millimeter jaws that won't go down as far as the Vic Mark, then maybe what you'll do is start with a bigger piece of wood so that you can put a tenon on it and then plan on just turning some wood away. If it's not fancy wood, that's a fine solution, and it's cheaper to waste a little bit of wood than to buy a set of jaws. So just giving you some options here. But my choice option wise is to get spigot jaws. And I like these O'Donnell jaws. They're great for a lot of things. They're really not the only thing that works here in this case. They just are one of the good options. So on the end, it's not tight yet, right? On the end of the piece, I've got the center point from when I turned it between centers. So before the chuck is tight, this is also, I'm ensuring accuracy here. I'm going to bring up the tailstock. I actually wanted to use a different tailstock. I'll get there in a minute. And that will hold the piece on center line while I tighten up the jaws. So now I'm tightening the jaws. And I should have the center line of my piece right on the center line of the lathe. And that's where the hole is going to go on both ends. So with this much length of wood, I'm holding it with a long tenon here. And that's going to make the next job, which is facing off the end, much easier. If I just had this piece on a short little tenon, I might be wanting to keep my tailstock up a lot longer. In fact, what I might want to be doing is using the tailstock I had planned on using, which is a little one with a small cone point. So let's get that up there. If I just had a tiny tenon on the end of my piece that I was holding in my standard jaws on the chuck, I'm going to bring up the tailstock. Now I have really good support for this facing cut. And if you remember, I said I was going to show you a trick I learned from Lyle in his last demo. And here it is. I'm going to make a basically V inverted cone in the end of the piece, bigger than the size of my drill bit. And I'm pretending I have this scenario where I only have a tiny little tenon on the end of the piece. So I'm doing as much of the work as I can until I'm down to just a very small diameter. And now my diameter there was probably under 5 millimeters, less than 1/4 of an inch, when I finally took away the tailstock. So I'm leaving the tailstock up as long as I can until I get down to a very small diameter. I didn't need to do that because I've got all the support in the world from these jaws. So now I'm going to put a drill bit in there, and I'm using the size drill bit that is the right size for my little insert. And that is a little insert here. That is, I don't know what it is. I got it from the Niles people. That's where I got the beer opener device as well. Niles bottle stoppers. Oh, do I have a QR code for them? No. Do I perhaps have a banner for them? Well, the answer again is no. So I'm not very well prepared to promote my good friends at Niles Bottle Stoppers. Great people. And I definitely agree with promoting them. But I don't have the link. You can look it up online. NilesBottleStoppers.com. All right. So I'm drilling a hole. I've got some masking tape on the length of my hole, and you'll see this is recommended by the bottle stoppers people where I got this insert. The depth of the hole is greater than the length of the insert. Otherwise there's air that gets trapped in below it, and it kind of it compresses and it tries to push it back out like a piston. So I'm drilling a little bit deeper hole on recommendation. And the drill bit this is that tip that Lyle gave me. The drill bit now, instead of just making a little center mark for the center of the drill to engage with and center up on, we've got a cone bigger than the drill bit. So the entire drill bit centers up on that cone, and it just centers right up. Of course, I'm also, as you can see here, I'm also using a stub drill, a short drill bit, and that helps a lot too. Lyle had another tip on drilling, which I have not put into action yet. It would drill to the depth of the tape, and that is to put a pin in through the tailstock ram and through the Morse taper on your drill chuck, and that would do it. Frank's got a good point here that a brad point will drill a cleaner hole. A brad point has a sharp spur that will center up nicely on an imprint, a little center mark. And that's another option. I was opting here for the short drill bit, which I could grind a brad point on it, yeah, or a bullet point or something like that. But I have opted for just getting a straight on center line hole with a regular twist drill. So yeah, lots of options. And you're absolutely correct, Frank, that a brad point drills a cleaner hole, more on size. It's less likely to wander. And the little cone that I put, and you can see how that cone is a little bit bigger than the drill bit. You can see there's still some of the cone left. That would center up a brad point nicely too. So now we have a hole, and I'm going to glue in an insert. Another thing that I have is I faced off the end. So I now have a clean end, and this is what's going to go up against whether it's a beer opener or a pizza cutter or a bottle stopper. I need a clean surface to fit up against the hardware, and I'm not going to be easily able to do that again. So I did it now, and I will go and glue in my insert. My glue of choice is Gorilla Glue, polyurethane glue. There are other brands besides Gorilla that are very good for this. It's I think it's called polyurethane glue, and I'm going to just I like the Type Bond brand personally. Let's put some glue in the hole. get a piece of dowel, and the idea here is to get glue all around the inside of the hole. And we're also going to get some glue on our insert. So I'm working off camera there. Let's get over here. I wanted to be more over here anyway. So the idea is that you have glue on both mating surfaces. Now, if you're in a dry climate like me, Gorilla Glue needs a little help from a spray of water. That was just water I sprayed on there, and push the insert in. You see how it's trying to come back out again? Hopefully it'll stay in there. If I'm having trouble getting it in there, I can ask for a little assistance from my tailstock. Push it in all the way. And what I want to see here is the insert is a little bit down in past the rim of the hole. So now I can set this aside for 8 hours or something, and we will fast forward on to what I've got here, which is I've got an insert for the beer opener on one end, 3/8 and I've got an insert for the pizza cutter that I ordered and didn't get on the other end, 5/16 You can see what happens with Gorilla Glue. Jerry is asking what kind of glue. It's polyurethane glue. Let me show that again. Gorilla Glue is a brand a lot of us have heard of. A lot of other companies make a polyurethane glue. Let me see if it says what it is. Probably in the fine print we can't read. Yeah, but it's this expanding glue. The reason I like it is because this is a glue that is truly gap filling. It foams and it expands to fill the gap. Any other glue is going to need clamping because it's not going to flow into the gap and expand into it. Epoxy, you're not going to get full coverage around your hole or your pen tubes or whatever. Yeah, so Duncan's talking about pens here, and you do want to abrade the metal tube, but these don't need it because they are not a smooth metal tube. They have some roughness to them. And the wood doesn't need that because it's got fibers and it's rough from the drilling. So I don't need to abrade these inserts. They're already abraded and ready to go. But the glue expands. 5-minute epoxy can also be used, but I'm trying to tell you that 5-minute or any kind of epoxy is not going to fill the gap as well as an expanding glue. It does work, and I've used epoxy for this sort of thing many times. You could use CA glue too if you wanted to, but again, it doesn't fill gaps, and so it's going to give you only coverage where you actually have enough glue in there. And if I was using epoxy, I would be a lot more diligent about filling all those little grooves on there with the epoxy or the CA, because that will help the bond a lot. In fact, so Alan, I'm sure, is saying from experience a 5-minute can be used because it's worked for him in the past. I'm sure it has. I'm so opinionated and picky. What can I say? So I use Gorilla Glue, but the Gorilla Glue expands, and it's given me. Oh, we do not want that noise. It's given me a little bit of glue proud of the surface, which I need to get rid of. I don't have to do it cleanly. I just have to get it out of the way there. And remember that most of this is getting covered with the hardware. And I've researched the Woodcraft pizza cutter hardware, so I kind of know what the diameter of the base of the hardware is. See if I can get a picture to show what I mean by that. So the base of the hardware around that male thread, it looks to be about 13/16 of an inch. I don't know how many millimeters that is, probably 25. So I'm going to just make a guess here and go with it. And I've got to take the chuck off. So John's got a comment about fancy handles. You can glue up a laminate of different materials for your handle, layers of metal and wood and things like that. What types of metal work with wood better than others? Well, there's a problem gluing metal to wood, and that is that they don't expand and contract at the same rate. Wood is going to always be uh, moving with the seasons. So wood's going to change with the humidity level in the atmosphere. When you're getting into small sizes like this, it's less of a big deal, but it's something to think about. That and then the other thing is, what kind of glue are you going to use? Because if you glue metal to wood with a glue that can't flex, you're going to risk breaking the joint when the wood moves and the metal doesn't, or the metal moves and the wood doesn't, because metal's going to move according to heat and wood's going to move according to humidity. So metal and wood together is probably, I'm going to just say, best done with something like metal powder mixed with CA glue or UV resin or epoxy or something, because then the glue won't expand, and it will expand and contract better. There's also a flexible epoxy. Okay, so did I say I drilled 2 different holes on each end? Yes, the inserts in this particular case, the inserts are not the same, because I'm putting a Woodcraft item on one end of this particular item and a Niles item on the other end. And it just so happens the insert is not the one that comes with the pizza cutter, because I haven't got it yet. So I found an insert for 5/16 18 in my hardware store, and I just put that in there. It's not the kind of insert I'll be getting from Woodcraft, though. And that brings up a very good other point. But let me finish this point first. I am going to turn this on a mandrel. The mandrel's got 3/8/16 threads on it. And I have a little piece of wood here as a spacer that's going to give me the diameter of the base of the hardware for this beer opener. So you can see it here. That's going to be a good reveal with the hardware. There's a little radius on the corner of the hardware. So this is what my imprint's going to look like. My transition's going to look like from the wood to the hardware on this end. I just made that out of wood. Now on the other end, let's get my part in here. But oh yeah, I wanted to make a mention of something else. The Niles and craft supplies are the same item. The Niles and the craft supplies use, I've got a picture of it over here. They use a stud in a male thread in the handle, and what you get is a male thread long piece that you screw in and glue into your wooden handle. And what I'm doing is I tapped the hole with a machinist tap in the lathe. I used a a larger drill bit than you usually would if you were tapping holes in metal, because it's easier, goes faster, and I really only need it to hold it while the glue dries, because I'm going to be gluing in that metal, that threaded stud here. I'm going to be gluing that in. So I don't really need good tapped holes. Now, why don't I just tap the holes and let people unscrew this from the handle every time they wash their pizza cutter? Well, that would work, except that tapped holes in wood are not going to handle a whole lot of threading and unthreading. So it's not really the best idea. The best idea is how they've designed the hardware, which is that you you drill and tap a long hole, and then you screw in and glue in that threaded stud. So I've just got this screwed onto the mandrel on this end. Now what I'm going to do is loosen it just a touch and bring up my tailstock. And I've made a little thingamajig for the end of the piece. The end over here that will go into the insert. Here's that insert. This is just one I bought at the hardware store. And the little piece goes into the internal diameter in the threads, and then the other diameter here is the diameter that I want to engage with the hardware. Okay, a couple of questions here. Let's see. Aren't the inserts designed to be threaded into the hole? That one I just showed you is. The Niles and Woodcraft ones are not. They are just roughed up with some grooves to enable the gluing. They are not intended to be screwed in. This one that I've used in here, here's a picture of it. It has an Allen socket there to screw it in. So yeah, this one was designed to be screwed in, but I made the hole fairly big because I knew I was gluing it anyway. I didn't really need to fuss with the screws. Those things, that those threads on them oftentimes split the wood. They're kind of difficult. So when it comes to fancy handles, the metals, I already answered that question. I'm trying to get to all these questions here. Okay, so no problem going back. Did I drill two different size holes? Yes, I did, because the inserts I'm using are not the same. One was a threaded screw in and one was a ribbed closed end insert. Use the insert that fits your hardware. I'm using an insert that will fit my hardware. It's not the one that came with the hardware. Some inserts have a hole in them. Some inserts are closed-ended, but use the one that comes with your hardware is the point. So would I recommend the kind of handles knife makers use, sandwiching several thin layers? I would recommend you make the handle that suits you and that appeals to you, because it all works. JB Weld is epoxy, and it's good. Yes, it's long lasting and durable. I think JB Weld may have additives in it that make it stronger, but it's an epoxy. So, okay, not all epoxies are created equal. There are stronger epoxies. 5-minute epoxy is probably one of the weakest ones out there. 5-minute epoxy is not going to be nearly as strong as any kind of other epoxy, because whatever they put in it to make it dry really fast does not, it weakens it. So the faster it dries, the weaker it is. And they must somehow engineer JB Weld so that it can handle higher temperature. That would make sense, because it's intended to be used for automotive where engine temperatures and things will get much higher than your typical anything else you might use epoxy on. So yeah, thank you, Steve. That's a good tip there. Um, what is best, soft or hard wood? Um, hard is better if you're going to be handling it a lot, but again, anything goes here. There's no written in stone requirement for these handles. Use something that looks nice. Using something durable is good, but really all you're ever going to do is put your hand on it. It's not like you're going to be using it as a hammer. So the critical thing I think really for durability is more the finish than the wood. But the better kinds of wood for wet hands grabbing it and all that stuff and the inadvertent washing in the sink is going to be something real hard, or better yet, resin or stabilized wood will be much better. So yeah, if you can get some resin or stabilized wood for your handle, that's a good choice. So what I just did here was I put the tailstock in the little center mark that was created when I made that spacer thing. I don't quite have it screwed down on the, I just loosened it up a tad. Now I'm going to bring up the tailstock with a spring-loaded point, tighten the piece on there, and hopefully I now have gotten it to be uh, pretty well right on center line. And finally, after all of that screwing around, I'm ready to actually turn something. So the turning is going to probably go pretty fast on, and I've got kind of a design in mind here. So this wood that I'm using has it's a burl. It's a black ash burl piece, which is relatively hard, close grained burl. I would like to have it stabilized, but this will be fine. I'm going to show you another option for a pizza cutter. And that is, let's see here. This one. This is a pizza cutter that I got at a thrift store many years ago. And it's really old. I've had it 20 years and it was old when I got it. And the handle is just some crappy, I don't know, softish, who knows what. And it's still held up to a lifetime. So I think the kind of wood you use is less of a thing. Okay, so Stan likes a little longer handle. Yeah, and that's a good idea. I'm pretty new to this, so I'm not. I'm going to listen to what you say there, and maybe if I make another one, it'll be longer. This little one that I got at the thrift store, its handle is 4.5 inches. So I held that in my hand, and I thought, well, this seems a little short. So uh, I'm going to make it longer. This piece I have in the lathe at the moment, I think is 5.5, 5.5 inches, which is 140 millimeters. And that seemed to me like it would be good. I'm just using my hand here and thinking, yeah, and I hadn't thought about leverage cutting pizza. So thank you very much, Stan, for that. Could I use a cone point to eliminate the wood plug? Yes, if centering it up was my only goal here, but it's not. The other goal I have is I want this diameter here so that I have a gauge. This diameter equals the base of my my hardware. Let's get back to it. Here's the hardware. So that diameter on the plug is the diameter that I want to turn the end of the piece down to so that it'll fit the hardware nicely. So that's the reason I made a plug rather than just centering up on the hole, which I could have done that, and I could have marked it or used the caliper. You know, as with everything in wood turning, there are so many different ways to do any one thing, um, so that you just really, I'm showing you one way to do things, and it's by far not the only way. So, question is a little off topic. What would I use for a rolling pin? I don't know. We'll have to do a live stream on that someday. Um, I have made a rolling pin in the past, a French rolling pin style, which does not have handles on the ends. And with that, I used maple, and that was a good choice. Maple, like a butcher block, is a good choice. So here we are turning finally. And the first thing I'm going to do is true up my blank. This is black ash burl, and I'm using a spindle roughing gouge here. I have a design for my handle in mind, and I've given some thought to that. And so first thing I'm doing is on both ends I've got a diameter for my hardware that I'm going to reach for. And to make a good entry cut, we'll go over here. I want my tool rest right about on the center line of the lathe when it's in the horizontal level position. So, okay, that's looking good. And I'm ready to do some turning. So we'll start over here, and I'm just going to keep the flute closed for the entry and make a little shape that ends and blends right at the end there. And let's go over to the other end. And we'll do the same thing over here. Just making a kind of a shape that ends and blends at the diameter of the hardware. The reason I have a wooden piece here is because if I accidentally hit it with the gouge, no problem. The Niles folks offer some spacers, which is a great idea, but the one I got was made out of metal, and I didn't think that was as good. Oh, so look at this over here. There's a bit of bark, so I'm going to change my mind a little bit here and get that out of there. And there's bark right here too, which I could actually, if I wanted to, I could get some thin CA glue and let this bark stay, but harden it up a little bit. And since I live in a dry climate, accelerator is necessary, especially if I want to get back to work right away. Okay, so question here. Can a finial be added to the handle? Sure, if you want to. Any kind of design you like. The gouge I'm using here is not swept back. It's the opposite of swept back. It's ground straight across. It's a spindle roughing gouge, and it's just ground straight across. I do have swept back grind gouges, but this is not one of them. And it is, in fact, you're right, spindle roughing gouge. Yep. And all right, so I was using that gouge. And I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is, I think I could make this whole thing a little smaller at the end. So we're going to start with that, making the ends, both ends, a little smaller in diameter. I did kind of like the diameter for the hand part, so I'm leaving that. And I want, in my design, I want a little bit of a flat there. I want about that much, I think, of a flat. And on the end here, where we had that little bit of bark, I'm going to try to get rid of the bark now. How did I do? Did I get rid of the bark? Yeah, good deal. Over here, I've got some bark. It's actually going to be gotten rid of here in a minute, but I'm not that worried about whether I do get rid of it. But I did want, I need this to be a little bit longer of a flat. This is a 40/40 grind bowl gouge, and I'm planing with the wing. I guess it's a very similar cut to what you would do with a spindle roughing gouge. So I'm going to make a little cove right about there, going from one side down a little ways and the other side down a little ways. A kind of a shallow cove. This is just the design I decided upon. Anything goes here. Design wise, uh, just use your imagination and try something. So, okay, let's see here. Comment. The camera angle makes things look awkward, you know, especially since the camera is in front of me there, looking back at things. And sometimes it looks like the tool rest is underneath the piece of work and other stuff like that. Cameras are necessary evil here. What is a general shape that's comfortable for a human hand? I think a cylinder is very comfortable for the average human hand. And a lot of the pizza cutters designs I've seen are a variation on a cylinder, just tapered sometimes, a tapered cylinder. Uh, if you remember that thrift store old commercial one that I had, it was just a taper with a little bit of um, a knob radius on the end. And what I'm doing now is I've got a couple of coves, and then I'm going to, there's the middle. From the middle, now I'm using my, oh, I could use that spindle roughing gouge again. From the middle, I'm going to make a gentle, what kind of shape would you call this? It's going to be a bigger diameter at the middle, convex down to a smaller diameter out here. And I may make that cove a little deeper now that I see what that looks like. I can make the cove quite a bit deeper if I want to. Now I'm going to turn the lathe off and see how it feels. Oh yeah, this is good. It's kind of it kind of bulges in the middle, just gently. That's good. I like it. But I do think aesthetics wise that I wanted to see a little bit more detail in here. So I did kind of draw it out, but I'm not following my drawing any too closely. I'm sort of just winging it. And trying to do a shape that I like in the moment. Okay, that one's deeper than that one, so we'll make it a little bit deeper over here. I could be more scientific about this shaping if I wanted to. I'm really kind of just winging it. And now I'm going to make a little bit of a radius here. I know I actually love crisp corner details in my work, but in this case, being that it's a kitchen utensil, I'm not going to have it be quite so crisp. So I think that's good. I think that's very good. And we're going to start sanding with, let's see if 240 will do it probably. And I'll sand all the way from 240 through 400, 600, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, and then I'll put on my choice of finish. When I sand the coves, I'm sanding from the low point to the high point so that I maintain the crispness of the cove, but then I don't really want to maintain it crisp. I want it kind of rounded over because this is a handheld kitchen device. It's not a fancy finial on a piece of artwork. So I'm also allowing for that. Sand right up to those gauges there. Okay, so good question, John. Am I trying to make it symmetrical? Yeah, but I'm eyeballing it and I'm not measuring anything, so I might not be all that great. I might not be that accurate. I am trying to, though, yeah. And I'm trying to sand it nicely. So this is great. Finish my sanding, and I'm ready for whatever kind of finish I have on there. And I'm going to take this out and do a finish on something else. Here's my gizmo. I'll finish it as in whatever color I want or whatever, top coat, and then I'll screw in the hardware. I'm going to just show you the hardware that I have at the moment, and so we can see that this is what it's going to look like. That's my idea of the beer opener end, and then hopefully the pizza cutter end is going to look great, and hopefully I'll get my pizza cutter one of these years, and I'll put this. I can still put this back on the lathe and sand it now because I can always take this off. So I will, but I want to talk about something else here, and that is this one. This is how it looked when I got it. And I split the handle off. Split the handle to get it off rather than when I saw it, it had that ferrule on there, and I thought, oh, I'll just cut it right here. But no, I had a suspicion there was something going in deeper. So I split it with a hatchet and a sledge. And I ended up with a ferrule, stainless steel, I believe, and a tang that goes into a hole. So my plan here is to glue this ferrule on and fill that hole with epoxy. And in this, epoxy is a good choice because it will fill a cavity better than Gorilla Glue will, because the Gorilla Glue isn't good for large pores, whereas epoxy is. And I'll have a hole full of epoxy, and I'll put this in so it's like casting in place, and that'll be very good. So what I did here, I have to take the mandrel off. What I did was drilled a hole in the end, the same way I drilled the hole in the end for you just now for the insert. Only I drilled a larger hole. I drilled one that tang would go into. It happens to be 1/2 inch. If you are buying something to do this with, you can't necessarily go by what I'm doing because it may be completely different. And each one of these commercially made items is going to have different attachments and different tangs or not tangs or threaded or whatever. So I've got a tail center that can go into that large diameter hole there. I turned the piece with the headstock driving it, and on the tailstock end, a cone center up into the hole. So I did all the turning and sanding and left just enough there to keep driving it. And now I can do some finishing, and at the very end I will part off this bit here and hand sand the top. This dome shape or a rounded end bead on the end is an easy shape to just sand by hand to get the headstock point off. So this is that same wood that you saw in the piece I did today, but this has been sanded to 4,000 grit. Okay, a couple of questions here. If I didn't want it to be symmetrical, what shape would draw my eyes toward the wheel of the cutter? I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. I'm thinking if I didn't want it symmetrical, I would be, well, look at what I did. I thought that the big end should be at the end, kind of like, so I'm gripping it and my hand is kind of not falling away on the taper, but falling towards it. I don't know. There's so much that can be done. I'd say draw some things, experiment with some things, make some pizza cutter handles and try them and see. We've got function here as well as form. So we need it to be like, I can't remember who that was, said longer, like 7 or 8 inches, because you need leverage to cut pizza. Well, I hadn't thought of that. But so, yeah, that's something you learn only when you do this. So will I splay the tang to give a better hold? No. It's been just stuck in with no glue into a hole for at least more than 20 years, and it was fine. So I'm thinking it doesn't need any more securing than just epoxy in the hole. So, and yes, beautiful handle. That's the wood there. Hello, Hyam. Good to see you here. Bird's eye would be nice. So would a lot of exotics or stabilized and dyed different materials. Another design I thought of that would look cool would be to take ash with its grainy, hard and soft places and make a bunch of beads on the handle. That was my initial thought, was to make an end on it, kind of like that one I did, and then just to do beads on the handle, because that would be a nice gripping, a bunch of beads, and it would look cool, because when you take the grainy wood like that and you cut down through the layers, you get some neat patterns. Burl, though, I thought, well, if I'm going to use burl, I just don't want to do anything to it. I want to just have the uninterrupted burl. So that was my choice here. And this was a piece that I would have made it a little larger in diameter, except I had this piece of burl that wasn't going to be stretched to be any bigger in diameter. So I just chose to use it anyway. And it was really just barely large enough at this end to do, to fit with this ferrule. So right now what I'm doing is I'm finishing the piece. And oh, you know what? Hadn't thought about this, but I don't want that ferrule in there, because the ferrule was in place for the turning so that I could polish it. And now, so I got the ferrule kind of nice and shiny, but now I'm about to put some finish on the piece, and that's going to get on the ferrule and possibly stain it. So I'm taking the ferrule off, and I've basically got the piece between centers here so that I can just hold it in place for finishing. Do I need to have it on the lathe to finish it? No, but I thought it would be easy to do it this way. So I'm going to do some dye. Lots of possibilities here for finish. And what I'm going to do is color. I think black ash burl looks nice with color. My typical coloring technique where I put on a dark color and then I sand most of it away and then I put on other colors doesn't work as well with black ash burl because it tends to it's too hard and it doesn't really do the penetration thing as well. So I'm going to let that dry now, and I'm experimenting here. I haven't really done this before as a finish. We're pretty slow on the lathe speed, and I'm going to cut back the die. This is 1000. Is that doing anything? I wanted to kind of cut the die back a little. Let's try some. I'm going to have to sand it again then, but let's try some 1000 actual sandpaper. So that's cutting back the die. I'm looking for a little more contrast and color variation possibly here. Yeah, so I've got a little more contrast. It's taken dye off of some of the areas. And I didn't do anything on the very end because on the end I'm going to have to finish it later, and it's going to be I just want to put on one solid color of dye. So we'll go back to our little more speed here. 1000. This is a product called Abralon, which is a fine polishing abrasive, and I originally sanded 1000, 2000, 4000 on this before I went and put the dye on it. Okay, so that's looking very, very nice. A little bit more contrast to show the figure of the burl a little better. And now I want to talk about fizz, and I've got some options here. I usually prefer an oil finish. And I don't know, maybe I won't do oil finish here today. I'm going to think about something else. This is one of the oils I like. It's a natural citrus thinned made by Levos. I like this Sutherland Wells polymerized tongue oil a lot. Oh, hey, here is our friend Todd. Good to see you, Todd. Now, Todd is elsewhere at the moment. Just in time to tune in for the very end. Yep. Oh, and John, you're right. Inlays would look cool. Absolutely. And I could apply veneer around the cylinder shape handle. You're going to have to ask Scott Grove about that. I think it would require some veneering skill I may not have. So I wouldn't probably put veneer around a handle, but I might stack veneers up and make a glue up of some kind. Okay, so finishes. Here's Waterlocks, which is another tongue oil finish. If I'm using an oil finish, wipe on poly or any thinned polyurethane. This is not an oil. This is polyurethane that's been diluted with the solvent, appropriate solvent. In this case, mineral spirits or citrus solvent or something like that. Could just put a coat of wax on there, but typically what I would do is put some kind of oil finish on and then put some wax on. Here's a tongue oil product that I haven't used a lot, but I quite like it. And I'm really debating whether I do that here or whether I use something else. Lacquer won't change the color of the wood, and it makes a durable, fast finish. This is a pad-on lacquer. It's called cellulose sanding sealer. It's basically lacquer diluted, and you can apply it and buff it out, dries instantly. Spray can, sure, that works. Um, Here's something I don't recommend: shellac, because although it's an easy to use finish, and this Shellawax is one of many shellac based friction polish finishes. It's Shellac is not a durable finish. It was used in the old days when they didn't have anything else to finish furniture, and it has held up over time only because furniture doesn't get washed in the sink, gripped with wet hands. Like for a pizza cutter or a pen, I don't think shellac's a very good choice. Oh, and here's OB finally. Yay, good to see you here. Glad you guys could make it. Yeah, so anyway, I'm not a fan of shellac for a usable item. I think it's fine for things that are going to sit on a shelf. The dye that I just used is this product called Trans Tint. I dilute it 16:1. These little bottles are a concentrate and they intend for you to dilute it. Sometimes I don't. If I want a just super dark color, I diluted that purple 16:1. And here's what I'm going to use today. Something I don't do very often. I was really so tempted to use Teddy's polymerized tongue oil paste. I met a cat named Teddy a couple weeks ago, and think about that guy every time I pull out this jar. So I'm going to use the Parfix just to do something different here. I'm not real experienced with CA finishes. And I believe the way this Parfix is intended to be used is to totally saturate the wood with enough to soak in, and we'll get on around that end too. I don't know, that may backfire on me. And then I take a clean, this is paper towel pieces, just cut a paper towel up, and I'm going to turn the lathe on and wipe off any excess, and then we'll turn the lathe up. Yeah, Barry, to answer your question, the diluted 16:1, I use alcohol. You can also dilute it with water. And that's, I think that's it. It's CA, so it should be dry. And I'm thinking I need to put a coat of Teddy's on there because it's got some wax in it, and I think we need a little bit of a polishing shine on there. So we're going to do a double finish, and I'll turn it way down. Apply some. They say to leave it for 15 or 20 minutes, but I'm leaving it for about 10 seconds here today. And we'll wipe off, and we'll turn the speed up and buff out the wax. So we've got some questions here about finishes. We'll get to that right now. On outdoor wooden things, spar varnish is good. Most finishes that are put on outdoor wooden things are expected to be renewed every couple of years because nothing is impervious to the weather. Epoxy maybe, but unless you stabilize the wood, I think you'd still have wood movement and everything. Boat builders or boat owners are always refinishing their woodwork. 16:1 with alcohol in my case. Okay, and so Paul's got some suggestion here. Layers of Gorilla Glue as a permanent smooth finish. Now that's a curious idea. I'm going to have to try that one. French polish. No, I don't like the shellac. Oh, Joaquin lost track of time just getting here. Well, you made it for the end. You get to see the finished result. Microcrystalline wax. Yeah, and that wax I showed, that Hampshire sheen, is a microcrystalline wax, I believe, and that can be, especially for a usable kitchen item, it's going to get a patina of age because people are going to handle it and they're going to have dirty hands and wet hands and sweaty hands, and so wax and renew it now and again. That can be, yeah, Paul, that would be really good to see that Gorilla Glue finish and be worth trying it. Okay, so now I'm done with the finish here, and my plan is to turn up the speed. I guess I don't need my gloves anymore. And then I'm going to get in here. Because this drive center is spring loaded, it isn't going to cause a disaster when I get down. Let's get closer if we can. Let's get closer. I could use the parting tool, but I think I can get a cleaner cut further in here with my spindle gouge. And I'm going to try to break it free a little bit. Uh-oh, look what I just did there. I just scratched the end. So I need to, if I care about this piece, I need to sand this end now because I just totally messed it up. And it's way better to sand it now than to sand it after I break off the headstock drive. So hopefully this will be all right. Worst case, I can mount it on that hole on the end and do some work with it. Maybe the Vortex is a better choice. It's got a 25-degree bevel angle, so it'll get in there tighter, and that might just be done. Is it done? Broken off. So I've got a little bit to sand. Pretty easily done with, we're starting here with 240. Is that going to do it? Maybe I will start here with carving it as much as I can. And then sand. I've got a block with sandpaper on it, which will get that nub down better than if I just had plain sandpaper. So you get the idea. We're going to start with 240 and we're going to go to all the grits, 400, 600, and then the Abralon. And then I'll put some purple dye on there and a little coat of CA on it, just without being on the lathe, just apply the CA finish. And once I glue this together, with my ferrule on And the tang in the hole, I might line it up. Like, how do I want it to look? I want the burl to show when the piece is laying in the position it's going to adopt. So when it's on the side there. And that'll be it. That'll be it. All we've got. And that's my pizza cutter for the day. I also have that one that I'm waiting for my pizza cutter end to screw in here, and I'll have a beer opener on one end and a pizza cutter on the other, and that could be really fun. A couple of comments here. Aaron's got a comment about gluing metal to wood. Polyurethane glue is, I agree with you, absolutely. I have done a lot of pens, and because the shell of wood is really thin and the hole has a bit of clearance, and epoxy doesn't fill a gap, nor does CA, I've had great luck with Gorilla Glue or polyurethane glue. And the Vortex, it gets into a place like that, and it wouldn't scratch the side like the wing of my gouge did. I should have picked it up sooner. Yeah, a wood dowel drive in the hole to sand this one. I could take all of this off and drive it on that hole there. And that's a great idea. Yeah, I didn't have to have it between centers. So that's all we got. And I am going to say I'm done with the project. I have a nice project, and I can go cut some pizza tomorrow if I glue this on. And this is actually the one I'm going to keep, I think. And I don't know what I'll do with the double-ended one if I ever get my hardware for the pizza cutter. But I'd like to remind y'all to sign up for the pizza cutter contest at turningwood.com. And let's see if I can put up a QR code. There it is. And we can also get him scrolling across the bottom here with a useless link. But if you go to turningwood.com and find, use the QR code, or just go to, how about this one? That's easy to remember and type into your browser window. Turningwood.com. And I'd like to mention something else now too. I am now on Discord, and Discord is it's kind of a forum. It's a chat server with different categories. People are chatting real time quite often, more like text messaging, and the messages stay up there. And anyway, I have here a QR code for my Discord server. So go over there. You can use Discord from your phone. It's real easy because you're only texting. You can also post pictures from your phone if you want to. I use it from my phone, my desktop computer, my iPad, and you can either use Discord on a browser or download the app. Some people hate the app. Some people love them. I use the app. I find it more convenient. So yeah, I hope to see you on Discord. Go jump on over there right away, and I'll be in my office answering Discord messages. So yeah, that'll be fun. Oh, and don't forget to go enter the pizza cutter contest. And if you want to see all those other events, I'm not going to go over them again right now, but if you want to see all the other events I talked about, head on over to this, wherever you're watching. As soon as I quit, the recording will be up and you can watch it over. So also if you came late. Okay, then. Happy whatever day it is today after Thanksgiving, everyone. And I'll see you next time. Bye now.